Okay, I am back. Something I forgot is my phone, so I'll be right back. I'm tired. I'm just gonna read 10 pages today. Five. Alright, I'm gonna dive right in. Try to get to bed early tonight because I've had a very rough week in terms of sleep. Almost done. I was supposed to be finishing the book this week, but it's just been so hard on me that I haven't been able to finish it. Yes, Homer admitted, but Deborah Pettigrew wasn't anyone special. We used to double date, Wally told Angel. Girl man usually got the back seat. Come on, Wally, Candy said. She'd given Homer and Angel too many asparagus. She had to take some back, or there wouldn't be any for Wally or herself. You should have seen your old man at his first drive-in, Wally said to Angel. He didn't know what drive-ins were for. Maybe Angel doesn't know what they're for, Candy said sharply to her husband. Of course I know, Angel said, laughing. Of course he knows, Wally said, also laughing. Only Bedouins don't know, said Homer Wells, trying to get along with the fun. After supper, he helped Candy with the dishes while Angel drove around the orchards with Pete Hyde. After supper, almost every night, the boys had a game. They tried to drive through all the orchards before it was dark. Homer wouldn't let them drive in the orchards after dark, not after the apple crates had been put out for the pickers. I liked the twilight by the swimming pool. From the kitchen window, Homer and Candy could see him sitting in the wheelchair. He put his head back as he were staring at the sky. He was watching the spiral drifting of a hawk over the orchard called Cock Hill. Some smaller birds were pestering the hawk, flying dangerously close to it, trying to drive it away. It's time to tell, Homer said to Candy. No, please, Candy said. She reached around him, where he was working at the sink, and dropped the boiler rack that he was working. Swordfish had been cooked on into soapy water. The rack was greasy and stuck all over with charred bits of fish, but Homer Wells immediately pulled it out of the water without letting it soak and started scrubbing it. Time to tell everyone everything, said Homer Wells. No more waiting and seeing. She stood behind him and put her arms around his hips. She pressed her face between his shoulder blades, but he did not return her embrace or even turn to face her. He just kept scrubbing the boiler rack. I'll work it out with you, anywhere you want me to do it, Homer said. Whether you want to be with me when I tell Angel, whether you want me with you when you tell Wally. Any way you want it, it'll be okay, he said. She hugged him as hard as she could, but he just kept scrubbing. He buried her face between shoulder blades and bit him in the back. He had to turn around toward her then. He had to push her away. All right, thank you, Luis. I'm just trying to push through. Like every night this week, I've had less than like 5 hours of sleep, and it's like starting to like really stack up on me. Okay. You're going to make Angel hate me, Candy cried. Angel will never hate you, Homer said to her. Angel, you've always been just what you are, a good mother. He held the serving tongs for the asparagus, and Homer thought she might attack him. She kept wrenching the tongs open and closed in her hands. Wally will hate me, she cried miserably. You're always telling me that Wally knows, said Homer Wells. Wally loves you. And you don't love me anymore, do you? Candy said. She started to blubber. Then she threw the serving tongs at Homer. Then she clenched her fist against her thighs. She bit down so hard on her lower lip that it bled. When Homer tried to dab at her lip with a clean dish towel, she pushed him away. I love you, but we're becoming bad people, he said. She stamped her foot. We're not bad people, she cried. We're going to do the right thing. We're trying not to hurt anybody. We're doing the wrong thing, said Homer Wells. It's time to do everything right. In a panic, Candy looked out the window. Wally was gone from his position at the far corner of the deep end of the pool. We'll talk later, she whispered to Homer. She got an ice cube out of someone's drinking glass. She held the cube to her lower lip. I'll see you by the pool. We can't talk about this around the pool, told her. I'll meet you at the cider house, she said. She was looking everywhere for Wally, wondering what door he'd come in any second. It's not a good idea to meet there, said Homer Wells. Let's take a walk, she snapped at him. You walk there your way, I'll walk there my way. I'll meet you. Good night, she said. She made it to the bathroom before Homer heard Wally at the terrace door. Today I'll be reading 10 pages to page 511. Because again, I'm just tired. Not 511, sorry, 510. 510. Kenny was grateful for the special bathroom equipment, especially the sink at wheelchair level, like a sink for children in kindergarten. Like the sinks at St. Cloud's, she remembered. She knelt on the bathroom floor and hung her head in the sink. She turned her face under a faucet. The cold water was continuously against her lip. How are the dishes coming? Wally asked Homer, who was still laboring over the broiler rack. Kinda messy tonight, Homer said. I'm sorry, Wally said genuinely. Where's Candy? He asked. I think she's in the bathroom. Oh, said Wally. He moved himself over to the corner of the kitchen where the serving tongs and a few broken bits of asparagus were on the floor. He leaned down and picked up the tongs, which he delivered to Homer at the sink. Want to see the last couple of innings of the ball game? He asked Homer. Let Candy do the dishes. Wally wheeled himself out of the kitchen. He waited in the driveway for Homer Wells to bring the car around. They took Candy's Jeep, keeping the top down. It wasn't necessary to take the wheelchair. It was just a little league game. Homer could drive the Jeep right up to the foul line, and they could watch the game from the car seats. Town was thrilled to have a lighted field, although it was stupid to play Little League games after dark. It kept the little kids up later than was necessary, and the field wasn't that well lit. Home runs and long foul balls were always lost. The tiny infielders seemed to lose the high pop-ups. Wally loved watching the kids play. When Angel had played, Wally had never missed a game. Angel was too old for Little League now. He found watching the games the depths of boredom. The game was nearly over when they arrived, which relieved Homer Wells, who hated baseball. A worried fat boy was pitching. He took the longest time between pitches, as if he were waiting for it to grow so dark, for the lights to fail so completely that the batter could no longer see the ball at all. You know what I miss? Boy asked Homer Wells. What's that? Said Homer, who dreaded the answer. Maybe walking, Homer thought, or maybe he's going to say, loving my wife. That's what I miss. But Wally said, flying. I really miss flying. I miss being up there. Wally was not watching the ball game, but looking above the tall field lights at some point high in the darkness. Above everything, he said. That's how it was. I never did it, said Homer Wells. My God, that's true, Wally said, genuinely shocked. That's right, you've never flown. My God, you love it. Got to arrange that somehow. Angel would really find it exciting, Wally added. It's the thing I miss the most. When the game was over and they were driving home, Wally reached across to the gear shift and popped the Jeep into neutral. Got the engine just a second, he said to Homer. Let's just coast. Homer turned off the key, and the Jeep ambled silently along. With headlights too, Wally said. Just for a second, and Homer Wells cut the lights. They could see the lights from the Ocean View house ahead of them. Both of them knew the road so well that they felt fairly secure just freewheeling in the darkness. Then the trees rose up and got their view of the lighted house. There was an unfamiliar dip in the road. For just a moment, they seemed to be completely lost, possibly plunging off the road into dark trees. And Homer Wells turned the headlights back on. That was flying, Wally said. They pulled into the driveway ahead of them, gleaming the headlights. The wheelchair was parked and waiting, and Homer carried Wally from the Jeep to the wheelchair. Wally let both his arms lock around all you've done. His arms lock around Homer's neck. I missed something. Don't ever think I'm not grateful to you for all you've done, old boy. Wally told Homer, put him very gently in the chair. Come on, Homer said. No, I mean it. You know how much you've done for me. I don't usually get the opportunity to say how grateful I really am, Wally said. He kissed Homer smack between the eyes then, and Homer straightened up, clearly embarrassed. You've certainly done everything for me, Wally, Homer said, but Wally dismissed this with a wave. He was already wheeling himself toward the house. Not the same, old boy, Wally said, and Homer went to park at the Jeep. That night when Homer put Angel to bed, Angel said, You know, you really don't have to put me to bed anymore. I don't do it because I have to, Homer said. I like to. You know what I think? Angel said. I think this book's too long. What's that? Asked Homer, who dreaded the answer. I think you ought to try having a girlfriend, Angel said cautiously. Homer laughed. Little does he know. Sure, we can double date, Angel said. Maybe when you try having one, I'll try having one too, Homer said. Sure, we can double date, Angel said. I get the back seat, Homer said. Sure, I'd rather get to drive anyway, Angel said. Not for long, you won't rather drive, his father told him. Sure, Angel said, laughing. He asked his father, was Deborah Pettigrew big like Melanie? No, Homer said. Well, she was on her way to being big, but she wasn't that big, not when I knew her. There's no way Big Dot Tap's sister could have been small, Angel said. I never said she was small, Homer said, and they both laughed. It was a light-hearted enough moment for Homer to lean over Angel and kiss the boy, smack between the eyes, where Wally had just kissed Homer. It was a good place to kiss Angel, in Homer's opinion, because he liked to smell his son's hair. Good night, I love you, Homer said. I love you. Good night, Pop, Angel said. When Homer was almost out the door, Angel asked him, What's the thing you love best? You, Homer told his son. I love you best. Next to me, said Angel Wells. Candy and Wally, Homer said, making them as close to one word as his tongue could manage. Next to them, Angel said. Well, Dr. Larch, and all them in St. Cloud's. I guess, said Homer Wells. What's the best thing you ever did? Angel asked his father. I got you, Homer said softly. Next best. Angel said. Well, I guess it was meeting Candy and Wally, Homer said. You mean when you met them? Angel asked. Next best, Angel insisted. Saved a woman's life once, Homer said. Dr. Larch was away. The woman had convulsions. He told me, Angel said. Angel had never been especially interested that his father had become a highly qualified assistant to Dr. Larch. Homer had never told him about the abortions. What else? Angel asked his father. Tell him now about Homer Wells. Tell him all of it. What he said to his son was nothing else. I'm really no hero. I haven't done any best things or even any one best thing. It's okay, Pop, Angel said cheerfully. Good night. Good night, said Homer Wells. Downstairs he couldn't tell if Wally and Candy had gone to bed or if Wally was in bed alone. The bedroom door was closed and there was no light coming from the crack. 4. Someone had left a light on in the kitchen. And had a light on the post at the head of the driveway. What's the on? Went to the Applemore office to read the mail. Went on in the office. Candy would know where he was. She'd already gone to the cider house. She could walk there from the office. It would be smart in that case to leave the office light on and not turn it out. He came back from the cider house. So tired that way. When I woke up and saw the light, he figured that Homer Candy was still working in the office. Package from St. Cloud's arriving so exactly on the day of Melanie's visit startled Homer. He almost didn't want to open it. The old man has probably seen my meat in my bags. Homer Wells thought. He was shocked to see the black leather doctor's bag. The leather was scuffed and soft. The brass clasp so tarnished. Its luster was as dull as the cinch buckle on the saddle. Everything on that horse, worn and used about the bag's appearance, only with the gold initials much brighter. Yes. Wells opened the bag and sniffed deeply inside it, anticipating the hearty and manly smell of old leather. But mixed with the leather smell with the feminine traces of ether's tangy perfume. That was when, in one whiff, Wells detected something of the identity that Dr. Larch fashioned for Fuzzy Stone. Dr. Stone, Homer said loudly, remembering when Larch had addressed him as if he were Fuzzy. Oh, tired, man. It's like... He didn't want to walk back to the house to put the doctor's bag away. He didn't want to leave the bag in the office, either. He came back to the office, turned out the lights. He thought he might forget the bag. There it is. And the thing about a good doctor's bag is that it's comfortable to carry. The bag was empty, of course, which didn't feel quite right to Homer, so he picked some Gravensteins, a couple of early Macs on his way to the cider house, and put the apples in the bag. Naturally, the apples rolled back and forth. That didn't feel quite authentic. Dr. Stone, he mumbled once, his head nodding as he took the right steps through the tall grass. Candy had been waiting for him for a while, long enough so that her nerves were shot. Not that if it happened the other way around, if she'd been the one to break things off, he would have been as upset as she was. It was heartbreaking for him to see that she had made one of the beds. Clean linen. Also, in anticipation of the picking crew's arrival, the mattress rolled and waiting at the opposite end of the beds. Candy's made the bed at the farthest in the kitchen doorway. She brought a candle from the house and had lit it. It gave harsh bricks a softer light. The candles were amazing by the rules. Recently, Homer found it necessary to emphasize the candles on the list. The figures also specified during a small fire. It's discovered, don't smoke in bed, no candles, please. Was the way he'd written that rule. He was tired. The candlelight was faint. It could be seen from the fancy house. Candy had not undressed herself, but she was sitting on the bed, and she had brushed her hair out. Her hairbrush was on the apple crate that served as a night table. This commonplace article of such familiarity and domesticity gave Homer Wells, part of it, the black doctor's bag in his hand, a shiver of such magnitude that he envisioned himself as a helpless physician, telling house to call someone with not long to live. I'm sorry, he said softly to her. We tried it. Certainly tried. It just doesn't work. Only the truth will work. His voice was croaking at his own pomposity. Candy sat with her knees together and her hands in her lap. She was shivering. Do you think the angel's old enough to know all this? He whispered, as if flickering in the room, full of sleeping pickers. He's old enough to beat off. He's old enough to know what drive-ins are for. I think he's old enough, said Homer Wells. Don't be coarse, Candy said. I'm sorry, he said. There's always so much to do during the harvest, Candy said. Looked at her white summery dress as if there were lint on it, but she seemed clueless. Homer Wells remembered that Senior Worthington had this habit. Senior's case was a symptom case of his Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Larch had even known the name for the symptom. Did the neurologist call it? Homer tried to remember. We'll wait until then after the harvest then, Homer said. We've waited 15 years. I guess we can wait another 6 weeks. 3 more pages. Stretched out on her back on the thin bed as if she were a little girl waiting to be tucked in and kissed goodnight in a foreign country. He went to the bed and sat uncomfortably on the edge of it at her waist. She put her hand on his knee. He covered her hand with his hand. "Oh, Homer," she said, but he wouldn't turn to look at her. She took his hand and pulled it under her dress. Made him touch her. She wasn't wearing anything under the dress. He didn't pull his hand away, but he wouldn't allow his hand to be more than a dead-weight presence against her. "What do you imagine will happen?" she asked him coolly, after she realized that his hand was dead. "I can't imagine anything," he said. "Wally will throw me out," Candy said blandly and without self-pity. "He won't," Homer said, "and if he did, I wouldn't. He'd be with me. That's why he won't." "What'll Angel do?" Candy asked. "What he wants," Homer said. "I imagine he'll be with you when he wants. With me when he wants." It's hard to say, hard to imagine. "He'll hate me," Candy said. "He won't," said Homer Wells. She pushed his hand away from her and returned the dead thing to his own lap. In another moment, her hand found his knee again, and he held her hand lightly there, the wrist, almost as if he were taking her pulse. At his feet, the shabby doctor's bag, heavy with apples, crouched like a cat drawn upon itself, and waiting in the flickering room. The doctor bag looked only like an unnatural object. That bag would look forever home where anyone took it. It was the bag that belonged wherever it was. "Where will you go?" Candy asked him for a while. "Will I have to go anywhere?" he asked her. "I imagine so," Candy said. Homer Wells was trying to imagine it all the way he heard in the car. And he must have heard it in the same instant because he sat up and blew out the candle. They sat holding each other on the bed, listening to the car approaching them. It was an old car, not very well cared for. The valves were tapping, and something like the tailpipe was loose and rattled. The car was heavy and low. They heard its grip on the high ground of the dirt road to the orchard. The driver had to be familiar with the way through the orchard because the headlights were off. That's how the car had gotten so close without their knowledge it was coming. Annie hurried to unmake the bed. In the darkness, she probably wasn't refolding the blankets and the linen very neatly. Homer had to help her roll up the mattress. "It's Wally," Candy whispered. And indeed, the car sounded like the Cadillac, which, since Ray Kendall's death, had lost its pinpoint timing. In fact, Homer remembered. Cadillac's muffler with a loose and had rebuilt engine, which always needed a valve. Too heavy and low built for a car purpose to use on draggy dirt roads. Where am I? How could Wally managed it? Homer Wells. Wally would have known to crawl the Cadillac. Homer himself had parked it behind one of those storage barns where the road was too rocky and broken up for the wheelchair. Maybe it's some local kid, Homer whispered to Candy. Cider House was not unknown to a few locals. The orchard roads had been lovers' lanes for more than one couple. The heavy car pulled up right by the Cider House wall. Candy and Homer felt the front bumper nudge against the building. "It's Wally," Candy whispered. Why would the local kid bother to park so close? The motor knocked for a while after the key was turned off. Then there was the ping after the meeting from the heavy car as it settled into place. Candy took on the door of the bag. Candy caught hold of him, pulling him back against her. "I'm not going to make him crawl in here," Homer said to her, but Candy cannot make herself move out of the darkness of the cider house. Homer picked up the doctor's bag and felt his way into the dark kitchen. His hand groped for the light switch, his hand brushing over the new list of rules. Not heard the car doors open, but he suddenly heard low voices. He paused with his hand on the light switch. "Oh, Wally, this isn't fair," he thought. There were voices from Homer. He knew that Wally had brought Angel with him. It made it easier for Wally to know Cadillac. It could have brought the car around him. Regardless of the torment that burgeoned Wally, Homer was angry at his feet for involving Angel. An Angel involving in it anyway, Homer wondered. Now they turned the headlights on to light the way to the door. It was not the way Homer had imagined telling them both. What difference did it make? Homer Wells turned on the light, but was permanently blinded by him. Thought that you must be lit up like a Christmas tree inside my house. He thought it wasn't fitting that it had been the Cadillac that had rescued him from St. Cloud's. And now there was this cat lacking away, come to rescue him again. Here wars the well-known doctor's bag in the pan, at least prepared to tell the truth. Ready to take this medicine. Right, he picked. Oh, I miss those. Remember what the neurologist called carphologia. Finding his grip on Dr. Larch's bag, he peered in the darkness. Suddenly it was clear to him where he was going. He was only what he was. An orphan who'd never been adopted. He'd managed to steal some of the time away. An orphanage, but St. Cloud's had the only legitimate claim to his name. In his 40s, a man should know where he belongs. I'm going to end here because I'm just like in agony right now. I'm like, I'm so tired. So that are house rules, folks. All right, sleep tight. Have a good night. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Stormer Shows, signing out and signing off. Until next time.